Welcome to this special edition of Newshour. Dr. Zlatko Lagumdžija, the former Prime Minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina, was known as a reforming world leader. He encouraged economic reforms and the preeminent importance of the rule of law. Well, since leaving office, former Prime Minister Lagumdžija has advised many foreign governments on peacekeeping, democratization and development, both in the Balkans as well as around the world. Well, recently the former PM and I sat down together at the Global Baku Forum to discuss the future of multilateralism, the personal cost of leadership, and why the rule of law is more important now than ever before. Thank you very much for speaking to us on A News. I'd like to start by asking you about the EU. So recently they boosted their peacekeeping force in your country, 400 extra troops on top of the 1,000 troops already there. At the same time, we heard from the chairperson of the presidency at this event a sense of frustration towards colonial type attitudes. So I wanted to ask you candidly, is this the help of a supportive friend, or is this the arrogance, the impertinence of an entity that is trying to have too much control?
Let me put it this way. There are a lot of similarities in the recent history of Bosnia and Herzegovina and this great country. Hoxha is example of connectiveness in between Azerbaijan and Bosnia and Herzegovina, because we know that Hoxha is a symbol of genocide that was made at that period of invasion and actually occupation of Nagorno-Karabakh by the forces who are now gone. The key fact that kept President Aliyev on a course and gave him a strength is something which is called international law, and which is called resolutions of Security Council of the United Nations. So for decades, people were claiming that Nagorno-Karabakh is integral part of Armenia, whatever, independent. But even being under occupation, basically speaking, the property, Karabakh, Shusha, it was property of and land and area of state of Azerbaijan, Republic of Azerbaijan. So basically speaking, it's like when some intruder takes your home and occupies with guns part of your bedroom. Of course, this is yours. And it's regardless how bad, how strong that intruder is, ultimately it is yours. Of course, you can say, well, that's okay, I'll let you go and I'll sign it, but you didn't do it. So there's a call, there's something, act, which is called Resolution of Security Council of the United Nations, as an integral part of the international law. The same thing applies to Bosnia and Herzegovina. We had Srebrenica, genocide in Srebrenica. The difference is that we, an international community, and we were patient for almost 30 years after genocide happened in Srebrenica to go through all stages and processes in International Court in Hague, because don't forget that there were so far 3, regardless of genocides that were happening. We know that, everyone knows that in Cambodia, Rouge Khmer committed genocide. But this is actually, as we know what happened in Cambodia, as we is in Karabakh, as we know what is happening today in Gaza. But those unfortunate acts of crimes, which we call genocide, they did not get official verdict by international court. And that was for us, in such a grave situation, advantage that we were going through the process of that ended with a verdict of to people with exact name, General Ratko Mladic, General Krstić, Ratko Mladic, Radovan Karadžić, President of Republika Srpska, they were guilty for committing genocide. Rwanda is another case. That was, and we have Holocaust. So those are the only 3 examples of genocide that went through all procedure. Okay, so why I'm saying this, it took us 28 years to get individuals who did commit that. We stick to it, just like you stick to resolution of Security Council that Karabakh is part of Azerbaijan. Forget it. How long did it take? It's good that you did it in a proper moment. I know what is 30 years gone, we know that. But this was the right moment, from international perspective, from the strength, from readiness of Azerbaijan to take that over and integrate its own piece of territory. Why I'm saying this? Because Dayton Peace Accord is an international accord, sealed in Security Council back in '95, accepted by Security Council. And Peace Accord has annexes, among which one is Constitution of State of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So our Constitution is part of International Peace Accord. In that Constitution, there is very well prescribed how you can change the same Constitution in a constitutional way. For example, to stop the war, it was agreed that you have 2 entities, 3 constitutive citizens, District of Brčko, and competences of the state, from foreign policy, foreign trade, and so on. And then all other competences were given to entities. But then it says in the Constitution, if the country decides to lift off new competences on the state level, because you are in nation building process, only state of Bosnia and Herzegovina is internationally recognized state. These are entities, just like regions you have here in Azerbaijan. So, in the meantime, a lot of competences were in a constitutional way, went through the 2 entities' parliament's approval, then to the state parliament, became a law that established competences and institutions given to a state. I'll give you an example. Intelligence service. I will not say CIA because they are called OSI. But I mean, basically speaking, intelligence services, we had 3 intelligence services as a result of the war. Then it was combined 2 and then 1. How? The entities gave their competences, because in a world in which we have to fight terrorism, organized crime, you cannot have municipal, New York CIA, Los Angeles CIA. I mean, so you have the state. We have our FBI, state police. It was certain criminal acts were given to a state. You cannot localize it on entity level. Of course, certain things remain on entity level. For example, we have a state prosecutor office. We have state court. Why do you have to have state court? We had by constitution, courts were given to the entities. But since European Convention of Human Rights and Freedoms is integral part of our constitution, if you want to appeal in Strasbourg to a court, a European court, the rule is that you have to exceed all national mechanisms, which means that you have to go all the way to the state court, and if you're not happy with the state court decision, if you think that they are biased against you, you can put your case in Strasbourg. So since entities in Dayton, in order to stop the war, having entities courts, in a process of nation building, the state court was established. So the people, citizens, can appeal to the court in Strasbourg. Okay? So and I can go on and on and on. My point is very simple. Our constitution says that you cannot do secession unless you do it in a constitutional way by decision of the Parliament of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which puts that on. Now, Dayton Peace Accord, since it was excellent accord to stop the war, with understanding that in the process of integrating the country, and the process that was seen that Europe is going in the process of integrations, we should reform nation building, keep up process with reforms and nation building. In that process, there were mechanisms that were built in the Dayton Peace Accord that international community will have, so to speak, unlocking mechanisms if we get stuck because of the war mindset, because of the politicizing, because of nationalism and so on. There were two things, let's say, safety pins in Dayton Peace Accord. One says there is an institution of office of High Representative who has right, who is authorized to monitor, and being the person who is, on the end, if the parties do not agree about what he says in a peace agreement, he is the one, or she is the one, it was always him, he is the one who is interpreter of the Dayton Peace Accord. And if the peace is violated, he can make decrees that are temporary valid until the state parliament doesn't decide otherwise, or if the state constitutional court doesn't decide otherwise. So this is one safety pin, okay? And High Representative used it in certain periods. Now, when High Representative used it against the will of Mr. Dodik, who is president of one entity, he didn't like it. And he made the moves which I will tell you about. But it's interesting, when his predecessors were removed from his office, three of them ended in state court. President Ivanic, who is here, who used to be foreign minister, president of government of Republika Srpska, member of the presidency, he used to be everything that Madam Cvijanović and Mr. Dodik was. And plus he was foreign minister on behalf of Republika Srpska, but foreign minister of Bosnia and Herzegovina. He was sentenced by High Representative at that time, 20 years ago. He was brought to court in a process that was clear setup. And he went through everything and he was released. Mr. President Mirko Šarović also served president of the SDS, the strongest nationalistic party at that time. He was removed from the office of the presidency, member of the presidency. He was brought to court. He was sentenced to court. He appealed, he didn't make it, then he was jailed, and after almost a year in the jail, his process went to appeal process, and he was released, and the state had to pay him remedy, to pay him for being wrong. Pardon him, excuse him. Mr. Ivanic, Mr. Šarović, right now the Prime Minister of Federation, former Prime Minister of Federation, is in jail for 6 years period for corruption connected with and he appealed, and he's now in a jail. So no one, of course there are a lot of people saying that he's innocent in jail, but you go through appeal process. So now when Mr. Dodik was sentenced to 1 year in prison for violating peace accord, for violating constitution, he was actually given a warning, because the verdict says 1 year in prison, which you can, according to our law, bail out for $15,000 a year. I don't think it's a big problem. So, and now as a result, he's creating the constitution of Republika Srpska as an independent state who has right to have his army, his intelligence service, his prosecutor, and by that constitution, he's actually saying that the laws and constitution of Bosnia and Herzegovina do not exist, which is clear violation of. So that's what the role of High Rep. And that's what, let me give you this third safety pin, is in Dayton it was said that S4, stabilization forces, with the mandate of United Nations, were in charge if the things goes wrong, that they can, if some violate, that they can intervene. I'll give you an example. We all remember September 11. At that time, I was foreign minister and prime minister. We had a case in which we had a group of so-called 6 Algerians who were actually people who were from Algeria, but they had fraud documents in Bosnia and Herzegovina as a result of the war. And they were charged for being connected with Al-Qaeda. They went to jail. S4, which has a mandate to act if the things, wanted them to be extradited to them because they were threat to the peace accord and threat to the S4 forces over there, okay? They appealed with the lawyers to the Court for Human Rights. when they were supposed to be released, S4 commander had very clear message together with High Representative that if we do not give them to S4, if we put them on the street, they will arrest them. And because they know that riots and violence is organized by their very same friends who were happening to do some things in New York and Twin Towers, that they will take those guys based on the mandate of S4 given in Security Council as a part of peace accord, because they are a threat to the peace and stability in Bosnia and Herzegovina. So when I said, but we have to go, they said, look, with all due respect, when you release them, when you finish all your legal obligations, when they get released on the street, we will arrest them. And if you are protecting them, people are protecting them, we will take care of it. So what we did, because we were, S4 and High Representative was above our legal system, if the violation of peace accord is in function. So we extradite them, okay, to S4. Regardless of the fact that our court said they can go loose, okay? They went on in Guantanamo. Years later, I lost elections because of that. I knew, and we had a clear message given to me from the very same Oval Office that still there is known as Oval Office. I had a message through the S4 commander that if we do not comply with our obligations as part of the International Peace Accord, Americans will take those people and they will withdraw from International Peace Accord, and they will use S4 as a military instrument according to the peace accord to take over not the state but the territory, which is in geography called Bosnia and Herzegovina, okay? That was part of international law. So I was in situation, shall I apply international law and our international obligations and lose elections? Or be national heroes, said, no, we don't want it, institutions of the state, blah, blah, and so on. I did what I did, and I would do it again. So as a result, you see, years later, I was the only official who accepted by invitation of American lawyers, who took position of defending those 6 people in Guantanamo because they were without any court decision. They were sent over there, and American lawyers, as humanitarian activity, believe it or not, they wanted that those people get in front of the American court if they want to keep them in a court. So I was the one, only one, all those national heroes. I was the only one who said, yes, I will witness what happened. And I was witnessing a case, call it, believe it or not, it was in 2008. Case Bujala and others against George Bush and others, Court of New York. I was ready to witness without subpoena to say what happened. You know how the case ended? The government of the United States decided not to go to court, but to let them free without court. Mistake. And they came back. And they came back and they asked, meeting with me, because they realized if we didn't do that, they would be dead that very same night, and we would stop being internationally straight as a part of international law. So what I'm saying today, Mr. Dodik is violating constitutional court, violating court decisions, and then, as a result, go back to this origin of your question. A few years ago, European forces, European Union, as part of our process of our willing integration to be a member of EU, they said, we will take over from NATO, S4. We will deploy European. We were the first experiment. EU4 was never in that capacity covering its own territory in Europe. Of course, some countries went to Afghanistan, Iraq, and so on, but EU4 is an organized structure. They took from SFOR, from NATO, responsibility to be guarantors of peace, which can be invoked by High Representative, that is also defined in international law called Dayton Peace Accord, signed by major parties of that time, and sealed just like Security Council decisions about Karabakh being integral part of. So our territory of Bosnia and Herzegovina, no one has right, and Mr. Dodik has no right to disassemble the country, not just violating our constitution, because if he does it, then people on the street can say, wait a second, institutions can go, but no, we have to have S4, we have to use all our institutions, Constitutional Court, the institutions if needed, to bring him to court, because he's violating, or not only him, today him, who knows him tomorrow. This wording, colonialism, this is very, I mean, you're a TV guy, you're media, you're in PR. Come on. Colonialism is a word that is buzzword that when, to be very precise, when my colleague, Russian permanent representative, he purposely is using that word. And Madam Tsvyanovich was just, I saw it was same script, same talking points. I mean, she used the talking points like I heard Mr. Nebezny very many times in Security Council and in our discussions in New York. He's used these words because when he says colonialism, then a lot of countries from the third world, non-alignment movement. I'm representing country that is a non-alignment movement as well, because Tito lives today in Bosnia and Herzegovina more than he lives anywhere else in former Yugoslavia, the founding father of non-alignment movement. But you see, when you go to the countries in Africa, in South America, when you talk to them about colonial past, they have certain sentiment about it. So any comparison between Belgium occupation of Congo or India being colony of Great Britain, or who knows, Germany being colony to compare us with us, because with all due respect, people of those countries did not invite Germans, Belgians, Brits, French, Spanish, Portuguese to come there and to colonize them. We did not have never been in such a situation, because if we are colony, what country is colonizing us? I mean, international community, Security Council we are Security Council, we are colony of EUFOR, European forces. Is there a government of, I mean, is our governor, Madame von Linden, or Mr. Michel until yesterday? Come on, I mean, this is, but
you've spoken very powerfully about the importance of international law, the rule of law, due process, even the example of your own leadership period where you were, as you put it, putting really the welfare of your country above that desire to be seen as a hero. We have seen, though, recently, haven't we, examples where that populism, that wanting to be, as you put it, the national hero, a sort of an undermining of multilateralism around the world. Are you worried that that's becoming fashionable?
I'll twist it around with another example. President Aliyev showed that you can do it if you don't follow that populist approach. He could, maybe in the last 30 years, he was tempted sometimes to do more populistic roles, to move. No. He just stick to the international law. That was something that he was always holding on. International law, resolutions, and was not tempting to get in any violence, because, I mean, there were a lot of situations which, of course, it could be done militarily faster and more efficient, but he was waiting for the moment. And he did not try to wait for the best populistic moment. He was waiting for the best moment for the sake of his own country, and for the sake of international law, and for the sake of rule of law, which, with all due respect, you can complain here or there for every country about, but this is the case where President Aliyev showed, I mean, really to to the world that you have to be patient and you have to be statesman. You have to think, because you see, he's obviously one of the persons who has capacity in today's world and who wants to do it. I have a feeling, I mean, and I think I have enough evidence from private and public events that we were together. I have a feeling that, you know, especially in crisis situations, especially in this tempting situation where you can reach your populist card. I was in those situations. Back that night in 2002, we were making that decision not to let country being left and become territory, and me being hero, but save the country. With all, I mean, I was traitor to my own people. I mean, everyone hated me. Serbs hated me, Bosniaks hated me, because Serbs leadership, Mr. Karadzic was still at large. He was the most desperate person. Why I did, because he wanted me to say, yes, we are with terrorists, but I didn't do it. But let me finish. And some Bosniaks, like I'm Bosnian Muslim, they were saying, I'm traitor, I'm leaving our Algerian brothers, who happen to be asked by international law and our international obligations. We wanted to extradite them in their home countries under international law, saying that give us certificate that we extradited to you, so Americans can ask you to take it. Give us certificate that they will not be punished for death penalty, because that's European law, Convention of Human Rights and Freedoms. They didn't let us, so we said, then we will not let you back to the country of your origin because you may be killed. We will fulfill our international obligation. My point is following. President Aliyev, obviously, and at that night, I was thinking how this decision will look not in 10 days, but how this decision will look in 10 years. I'm absolutely sure that President Aliyev had much more situations in which he was thinking about how my decision will look in 10 days. But wait. I have to see how my decision will look in 10 years from now. And what will that mean for my country? So that's the reason why I'm so happy to be here today in Global Baku Forum and have that great news. That President Macron, I mean, who is very, I mean, very much involved from different perspectives in this case. I'm very happy that he today brought to the world the news. Of course, a few days ago we were waiting for that, because with President Aliyev I was here when Karabakh was taken back in possession of Azerbaijan a few years ago. We were the same group of people from here. We were visiting Shusha with President Aliyev to see that actually what was done there. But he take it easy. Now Shusha is under reconstruction. We were here last year, visiting over there, seeing how the work is in progress, how the things are. So it is very important to be having such a clear position. So that's why I'm so happy today that finally the deal is there. That Karabakh is what it always was, legally. But it is today what it was and what it should be, integral part of, and substantially and technically and formally, because President Aliyev respected international law in a situation where he could respect populistic card, and he didn't do it. And today's world and today's leaders can learn a lot from that.
And just going back to that moment in 2002, you were Prime Minister.
Yeah. And Foreign Minister.
I
was joking. President Berlusconi was my colleague because he fired his foreign minister, so he was foreign minister and prime minister. So we were joking, I mean, that we were two high shots when we met.
But you had this incredibly, obviously important position, but you're also respectfully a human being as well. And
I'm trying to be.
It must have. You obviously don't regret the decision, as you put it, not to be the hero. But there must have been part of you that felt the burden, the pain of that decision.
Oh, definitely. It would be long and maybe sad but learning interview if I would be telling you about that side of the story. But this is, I mean, something which I can assure you that was really a tough time. Those decisions were tough decisions. And that's, we all that saying, I mean, that if you really want to be in politics, you want to be a leader, not the politician, you have to think about next generations, not about next elections or next temptations. Who is of your party friends are going to try to turn you down, so become your party leader instead of you. I mean, that's the usual coup d'etat inside the parties. I mean, it's happening in every country, party in the world. It happens in the United States, in Great Britain, in biggest democracies. I mean, so that's normal. But you see, what I found out is, and what I tried to do in my life, out of my life, I joined political life. I came back from postdoctoral Fulbright professorship in the United States in '91. I was computer scientist, significantly younger. I mean, professor, never was in politics. But then my country was attacked. Bosnia and Herzegovina is part of dissolution Yugoslavia. There was aggression of Bosnia and Herzegovina by our neighbors. And I joined the first national unity government as opposition before that to President Izetbegovic, because we were attacked as a country. I never left my academic life because of a very simple reason. I did not want to sell the soul to the devil called power. Because I thought that if I'm entering the political life when my country is attacked, I have to be sure that I will follow my values, what I believe in. And because I knew that power corrupts absolutely.
Seductive, perhaps.
Right.
Yeah.
So we know that. I knew that. And I came from the family that was involved in politics, in art, in theater, in literature. I saw the great people of that time who went through my family, dining rooms, leaders, artists, whatever. And I saw how that, as a little kid. So I wanted, if I'm in politics, I did not want to be enslaved by politics. Because you see, if you are, I don't know, if you have some kind of nice, decent job, if you're teaching, I don't know, these good things, very good. If you're teaching kids geography in high school, and suddenly you become elected in parliament, then after that you become minister, forget the foreign minister, suddenly the driver is driving you, you have a escorting to the airport, you sit in business class, you go to New York, to United Nations. You come back, your wife doesn't recognize you, she saw you on TV. You became important. Now you become even more important. And then in some political battle, you're in a tempting situation, much less tempting than what I was telling you, and you will say, well, will I stick to my principles and go back to teach geography in high school? Or will I sell the soul to the devil? Will I do Mephisto story? And do I follow Mr. Faust or another, since you refer to the very concrete literature? Or shall I stick to the principles? One of the men who really made big impact on me, for example, was late Wim Kok, Dutch foreign prime minister. I remember once he told me we were in some Arab countries having around few of us, former Prime Minister Jospin of France, myself, Wim Kok, and Kjell Magne Bonder. He was a priest. We were three social democrats, and he was priest. He was leader, former Prime Minister of Norway. He was leader of conservatives. And they called us in Arab world the Red Gang and the priest. So one dinner, we were talking about these things, very light, and Wim Kok said, Zlatko, I want you to know that in politics you have to test yourself. if you're confronted with a dilemma, do you want to be respected or popular? Try to be respected. Because sooner or later, if you run only popular way, gone. And I tried, it was a long tour, and after 3-4 days since I was saying to I like that idea, and last day he said to me, Zlatko, I have annex to that rule, because I see you like that rule. I said, okay, what? He said, don't overdo it. You have to win elections if you want to show your principles and keep being respected. So of course you have to work also populistic things, but you know, do it with the measure. PR is, after all, PR is what? But I mean, you're selling popularity. You're selling the things that people like. But don't overdo it, and don't overdo it with the principles. When principles can be, let's say, accepted to the level that you don't destroy everything by simply playing all the way to the principle. So what I'm trying to say is that I know few things. I would do some things differently with this experience. But I wouldn't, maybe I would do it with less pain. I would maybe escape some windy waters. But I would follow the same principles. I would probably do it better, but I will do it in a different fundamental approach. And that's what counts.
Follow your principles, but don't overdo it. It's a great message to end on. Excellency, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.